Mark 87 pauses briefly, but knows to avoid looking too suspicious. He turns on his heel and heads right back into Sylvan Steele's warehouse. The office door swings wide open again, and the android receptionist puts the phone down. Excuse me, I believe I left one of my belongings in the back when I was talking to one of the other individuals. Could I get that guest pass again? Oh, oh, well, all right. She seems confused and befuddled. Did she call the cops on me, or was this something much larger? Mark 87 didn't wait to hear, and as soon as she handed him the special pass, skipped into the next room and walked into the warehouse. And Mark 87's back. So we're in the second half of day 2 of my actual play of Caught in the Rain, a solo mystery role-playing game. I am looking forward to seeing how Mark 87 gets out of that cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to show you how the episode wraps up. Here we go. Not long after his departure into the warehouse, he could hear the 2 cops following him. And as soon as he had his hand on the guest pass, he put it onto one of the cybernetic arms. Mark 87 grabbed that arm and walked around a little bit, stowing it in a closet, waiting for the cops to walk around into the front. As they entered the warehouse scene, more of the workers noticed. Cops make a much bigger presence than our investigator. And as they slowed down and halted work, Mark 87 registered their entrance and then began making his way around the other side, uh, exiting out of the Sylvan warehouse office. All right, so I marked off my keyword to get rid of the cops, and while I have them there, they're in some kind of vehicle, right? Like they've got a cop car. Um, it's time to use the infiltration stage to see if I can access the information inside of the cop car. Can Mark 87 figure out whether the cops are able to trace Stieg Farnell using Stieg's own cybernetic implants? The way I've set this up, this looks a lot more like a method role. So resourcefulness, creativity, craftiness, that kind of thing. That is a 6 and a 3, and my method is a 1. I made a 10. Ooh, that is a bonus clue, and I succeed from infiltration to the acquisition stage. So +1 to my danger, which is now at a rip-roaring 6. This is a problem because if I roll less than this danger, I create a new threat, and then I have to decide whether or not they are a 1, 2, or 3. But that only happens when I deal with the attribute roll. All right, what's the clue that I got? Let's see. 7 of spades. I'm pretty sure I've gotten 7s before. Ooh, yeah. Well, that's great. My 7 of spade is the heightened security around the kidnapping charges against the bar's owner, leaving the cops behind in Sylvan Steele's warehouse. Mark 87 trots quickly across traffic and within a moment spies the unmarked police car for a White Homes police department. And as he picks through the lock, he recognizes a couple of the original codes on the recognizes a couple of codes on the car door panel. The security around this vehicle is pretty intense, and at the same time, Mark 87 knows these vehicles inside and out. It's been a while since anyone has updated the cops' transport. As he pops open one of the locks using a failsafe that he recognized might still be in the design, Mark 87 manages to read one of the critical mission statements for this patrol unit. They're tracking down the apparently they're tracking down the hospital. Or, sorry, they're tracking down the bar owner, apparently a mannequin matching Mark 87's description, is walking around streets. And it's important to find out as Mark 87 starts scrolling through the information inside of the cop car, he wonders, oh, what is uh, Lorenzo Iverson? That's the bar owner's name. What exactly is he charged with? They're charging him as a suspect in Steeg's missing persons case. Oh, this suggests it was even murder, but the police haven't found a body yet. Hmm, that is even more peculiar. Why would the bar owner be charged in this? That doesn't add up at all. I'm adding one to my danger, which is currently at a 7 now, and I need to do another attribute test in the acquisition stage to see where I would find a clue inside of the cops' cars. Um, so let's get into the narration. The equipment looks a little different than in my day. Mark 87 has the passing awareness of how outdated he himself really is. His mechanical fingers don't touch any of the actual um, equipment pieces. There are panels with numbers. There's an array of switches at the top of the car. He's just gotten the door open, and now the question is, where do you start looking for cybernetic tracking systems? For the moment, he's lost, and then he takes a solid 2 second breather and scans the interior of the car carefully. If somebody's tracking a cybernetic implant, they're going to be using a number of different tools, transponders, maybe the RFID chips from before, the RFID tags from before. There's so many ways to do this. Mark 87 just plies his brain and gets to work. Okay, here we go. We're using Insight. So Insight is a 2 for Mark 87, and we're rolling dice now. That's 5 plus 2 is 7. Is that a success? Yes. Yeah, that's a success, but it comes with a consequence. So one thing to know about Caught in the Rain, it's using a scaling tool with the 2d6 that's similar to Powered by the Apocalypse. Powered by the Apocalypse, or PBTA, as you might know online, is one of the systems developed by Vincent D. Baker, the author also of Dogs in the Vineyard. In Powered by the Apocalypse, you have 2d6 and you have your stat, and the question is, um, do you roll above a 6? Now, if you're a math whiz, you know that the 7 is actually the most likely roll. But yeah, that makes success with consequences more likely. In this case, had I not used Mark 87's insight, I would have been rolling maybe method, which would have been a 6, and that would have been a failure. What consequence do we have here? The deepest type of consequence, marking 1 fatigue. All right, it's a strain. And Mark 87 manages to finally flip on enough of the switches to pick up one piece of equipment. Oh, okay, there's a transponder here. Does this? Okay. And as his fingers start moving through, there's a little bit of a background internet Wi-Fi signal that his systems can tap into. And while he's afraid of reaching in and accessing the system in case it flags him as an intruder, Mark 87 manages to offer it just a little bit of signal before he can see how much security is attached to it. Meanwhile, in the physical realm, his eyes are cast across the street. The two cops are still gone, so moving quickly, thinking fast, and now he manages to tap one of the systems and is able to say, oh, here's where I could find a clue. Can these actually track cybernetic implants? All right, we're using our insight again. And one thing I am paying attention to, danger is creeping up. The reason the danger number is important, the more danger you accumulate, the easier it is to roll less than the danger number. So right now my danger is at a 7, and in that last attribute test, I rolled a 7, as in rolling plus the stat. if I roll less than an 8 this time, because I moved into the acquisition stage, then I am going to create a level 1 threat. But I don't need to worry about that right now. Let's get the roll done first. Okay, 3, 3, that's 6 plus 2 is 8. I am on thin ice. I also now get to roll a consequence because it's not a 10 or above. It's strictly, yeah, succeed at a cost. Plus 1 to a threat. Well, I don't have any threats on the scene, though otherwise that gives me another danger. My danger is now at a 9. Escaping is going to be a beating. Hopefully not literally. And speaking of success, it's time to pull a clue card. What have I got? A 9 of clubs. The 9 of clubs hasn't been added to my clue set yet, so I'm not strengthening a clue. I'm actually getting a new clue, which kind of sucks because I would have been strengthening a clue if I found that the investigating, or if I found that the tool actually did track cybernetic implants. At least that's the way I set it up. I could choose to make that the clue, but now I would really be pushing it. So I've got random tables to actually focus on. So let's roll and see what we got. All right, I'm on the sci-fi clue table because why not? And what have I got? 6, 4. Another black market lead. Huh. Black market lead that it's like in those detective movies where the investigator runs right into the same kind of clue that just keeps popping up. In this case, if Sylvan Steel is somehow the next clue, or like that could imply anything. Sylvan Steel somehow cooperating with the cops. Sylvan Steel somehow, uh, or maybe it's somebody else, some other black market operation. Or what if it's not about Sylvan Steel, the prosthetics? What if it's Sylvan Steel, something else? Sylvan Steel related to other items? Well, now the question has to go to the oracle in the back of the book. I need to ask and find answers to what kind of clue this might be. So I'm asking the subject oracle, uh, how else is Sylvan Steel invested in the black market? Time to grab dice. What do we got? Eliminate 2, 1. Again, I'm going to check my dice. Eliminate broken. 5, 2. Eliminate broken patron. You know what that suggests, right? So eliminate broken patron. What if that means that Sylvan Steel was somehow working against the cops or had a contract to eliminate some of the broken, as in over, uh, yeah, over addicted or over connected cybernetic prosthesis implant owners? If you have too many of these things, or if you show signs of perhaps the prosthesis making you crazy, then it came to Sylvan Steel to put you down, as opposed to having the cops arrest you and then that becoming like a public safety situation. Whoa. So right now this is just a first clue set. So, or the first card in a clue set. So I can't make it add onto any of the other elements that I've got. The current one that is a black market lead is about how Sylvan Steel is um, giving out or getting people addicted to their prostheses. Now, this one is actively going to be contracts or reports of oh, reports of people being too dangerous, and they're going to be reported to Sylvan Steel for elimination. Mark 87 uh, turns over more of the records. Nothing that definitely pings with cybernetics, and then he does see it. Uh, icon that might refer to enhanced humans, a plus sign beside an arm, and then when he navigates into the details, these are files of prosthesis owners. Oh, maybe if we tap into, and he starts exploring the files, only to discover that some of them are cops, some of them are just average citizens, all of them are reported dangerous, and some of them are listed as eliminated. Quickly, Mark 87 tries to download the file and save it to his own system. He's close enough to keep a list of a kind, but he doesn't get to keep the total sum. Is Steeg on that list? He's not sure, but already the time is probably running out. Those cops could come back any moment from the warehouse, and if they caught him here, well, it'd be another missing persons case. He wants another few minutes, but if it's true, this doesn't look like the cops are actually eliminating individuals, but that they are outsourcing the services to somebody. Just a few more minutes, just a few more minutes. There's some 78 records here. He can find somebody, or he can find Steeg if he's in this list. All he has to do is click faster. And just as panicky, his eyes pan back up to the crosswalk. Are the cops there or not? All right, so what I've done there in the fiction is set up so that I have to roll for escape, even though I don't technically have to according to the rulebook. But if I roll for the escape, then and I succeed well enough, then I'm going to be able to get a clue, which is awesome. Um, but there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have another threat arrive on the scene because of the way I rolled those dice earlier, the buildup of danger. So using my insight, right, studying the details in the computer, it's all on you, Mark. 6 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. I got a clue. Okay, here we go. Okay, giving the deck of cards a extra shuffle. Here we go. Here we go. I hope it's related in some way. It'd be worth it, right? To start collecting people and making sure that the threads close together. But the nice part is I only increased the danger by 1, and um, I got a clue out of this. So. An 8 of hearts. Ooh, Steeg is looking for his brother, and the 8, the cards related to the 8 are the connection to Leaf Farnell. Man, Steeg, what have you gotten yourself into? Quickly typing through and trying to scroll as fast as possible, watching for the next sign of the cops running out of the warehouse. But he's finally got Farnell, and he finally sees the name Farnell. But that's not Steeg's name. That's Leaf Farnell, listed as dangerous and has a couple of outbreaks in some other part of the station. Oh man, Steeg, what have you gotten yourself into? Mark 87 grabs the details and packs everything up, makes sure that he doesn't leave any traces behind, and steps out of the vehicle, closes it up, makes sure it locks, and then walks around the corner. So, Leaf Farnell, another prosthesis addict, someone who has added a lot more upgrades than he can handle. And instead of the cops arresting and helping these people, they're putting it back to Sylvan Steele. I wonder who that go bag really was for. And I wonder if Sylvan Steele actually caught up to Steeg or Leaf. The mechanical investigator saunters up the streets of White Home. What a funny idea, naming this place White Home. It's a riff off of Casablanca, he knows. But it doesn't feel like home if it's as dangerous as this. Days gone by, this place was a hub of trade and connection. Major galactic powers passed through here. Mark 87's mind trailed on and on. He walked for who knows how long. Somewhere in the city, and Mark 87 stared up into the space station, which curved over and over into itself, a spiral of a long city block. Somewhere here. We've got two brothers, one on the edge of addiction, and the other one already too far gone. How do you... And I'm trying to track down one while he's tracking down another. After a moment, the passing transit bus, a hovering bus, went right beside Mark 87, and it occurred to him that I almost lost the bug out bag by not taking it back to Nick's Croman, the girlfriend and partner of this missing person. Well, she deserves to at least have his stuff. And maybe, just maybe, she might be able to help me find more answers too. After a moment of glancing through the city directory, Mark 87 heads to the nearest possible mechanic shop that Nick's Croman might be working in. It was nearing the end of the day, and Nix had a red coat that came down to her calves, long gloves that covered up the engine work. She had a bag too, something that was going to help her carry a set of tools, access cards, and she dropped it as soon as she saw Mark 87 sauntering into the alleyway in front of her. Evening. Do you have any news? She knelt to quickly pick up her bag, and Mark 87 walked over and offered his. Does this look familiar? It is. It's Steve's. Did you find, like, where did you get this? This was at Sylvan Steel warehouse. He apparently had been working there. I'm going to need your help, though. I want to talk to the Lorenzo Iverson. Who? Nix asked. He's the poor owner of the speakeasy bar that used to have me as a window decoration. And he's currently under arrest, under suspicion. Yeah, I knew that was right. You're going to help me get in there and talk to him. Wait, what? I'm not going to go into the jail. No. I just need you up at the front. See, with a little bit of the cash from the bug out bag, you could pay for a little bit of a license for me to be walking around as a mechanical and uh, unlicensed robot. That means I get to pay my respects to the guy who previously owned me. So, ownership transfer time. You willing to buy an investigator? And he pulled out a couple of cards. That is, until I buy my own freedom. Well, what do you think Lorenzo's going to tell you? He could tell me anything. I'm dying to hear how his own bar got mixed up in this. For some reason, he's under arrest, when the fact of the matter is, let me start at the top. For the next 10 to 15 minutes, Mark 87 and Nix Croman rode one of the bus while the android caught her up to his investigation. You shared what he found at Sylvan Steel warehouse. That Sylvan Steel sometimes eliminates people who are too dangerous because of their own cybernetics. A heated exchange with somebody else that worked inside of the warehouse, and the fact that Leaf Farnell, Steeg's brother, the brother that Steeg has been watching, trying to find for ages, is apparently on that hit list. Moments later, they arrived at the detention block. I do need to do an obligation scene to avoid racking up more fatigue, but we've got some hot leads, so we don't want to wait. Investigation scenes start with a roll. Rolled a 5, infiltration stage, and with a level 1 threat. That sounds reasonable. What kind of a science fiction threat might I have? Alternative gravity. That's a problem. Maybe it isn't so much that the police themselves are a threat, but they actually keep their jailed in somehow a zero-G scenario. Excuse me, Lieutenant? That's Sergeant. The clerk at the police station looks up and sees a woman in a red coat and a couple of grease stains on her cheek, holding a couple of bags, and a tall gentleman in an overcoat and hat. Wait, that gentleman's an android. I haven't seen one that old in ages. The old android looks down and winks at him. A minute, that's a bit of an interesting experience. I'm here to register my android. There's a ownership transition, and but in order for that to happen, this older model actually has to register the face with the owner. Uh, could we see a Lorenzo Iverson? Iverson? The sergeant types away at his board, and the investigator leans forward and says, "Please, it's urgent." What could be so urgent about some paperwork? You don't understand. Uh, Lorenzo Iverson is in the hold because he's on a murder rap, got a murder charge on his head. I don't want you jettisoning this guy off into space and me having to go in circles, never really having a new owner, you know? And he winked again. All right. Um, Mark 87's method is not his strongest. Okay. That said, this is the infiltration stage, and the way the scene's set up, I couldn't necessarily use his insight the way I thought I could. Maybe I could try rewriting it or re-saying it in some way. I mean, given where we are, what do you think? Changing the method, or changing from creativity and resourcefulness to insight. Well, he could, in the moment that the uh, investigator leans forward, the eyes flick down and see details on the police sergeant's control panel. The sergeant leans forward, and the android picks up a scent of cologne. The uh, investigator recognizes that this guy is almost at the end of his day, and if he's not careful, they may just be brushed away because somebody's got a hot date and he doesn't want to be late for it. The actual imprinting process, Mark 87 says, takes me less than 20 seconds. I just need to get in there for a moment. But I promise it'll be fast. Okay, I think I've tried to make a case for uh, rolling insight, and I still wound up describing method. Good job. Okay, so Mark 87's method is a 1, 4, 1, and 1, 5. That is a failure. Now, when you fail in an attribute test, obviously you don't move on to the next stage. You gain a keyword, which is this game's version of XP maybe, and you also suffer consequences with a single d6. Let's see what that roll is. That is a 3. Level a +1 to a threat. That alternative gravity is going to be a beating. So what kind of keyword did I get? Signal. Signal. Oh, it's the police waveband. He's actually able to register the come and go best of the police. Okay, that works. And I suffered some consequences. That's great. And this means I also got to try again. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that fast. See, you got to take the trip all the way to the top, and once you get into the center of the station, like, I don't know about you, fella, but like zero G always does something weird to people. And I mean, to be frank, you look like you're holding yourself together just barely. Are you sure you're going to be able to hold up in zero G? What if, how about this? We'll get Iverson down here tomorrow, and no, no, give me a moment. I think I'd actually like to approach this a different way, Sergeant. Yeah, we are definitely making this licensing purchase change. And he slid over the forms in front of the sergeant. And I also am going to make sure that we see this individual. Iverson's a key person in this case. You've got him up there on a murder charge, and I believe I have evidence that suggests that he wouldn't even be there would be no motive for him at all. Well, motive isn't exactly the case. Besides, it's up to us whether or not Lorenzo Iverson gets to see anybody. And for a brief moment, the investigator stops and says, "Wait, is I believe there are special visitation privileges, if I remember right, for prisoners when they have next of kin, and by all rights, I might be Lorenzo Iverson's next of kin, since I'm his only agent property. I can't act on his behalf as his android until I get imprinted on another individual. So, how's it going to be? You going to let us in so I can move this case along? Or do you want me to slow down the entire night and make sure that I get to prove that an artificial intelligence agent has the right to meet their individual owner, even if they are behind bars? And with a little bit of guile, the android points to the telephone and says, I could make a call to one lawyer that's going to make your night a hell. So insight is the observation and application of intelligence. So making those connections right then kind of counts for insight. And here's hoping that I make my roll, because this is, I just realized I don't have that many fatigue boxes left. I can't take a whole lot of consequences. That is a 6 and a 5. Oh, so when I got the alternative gravity uh, threat, that reduced my danger from a 9 to a 5. You cut it in half and round up. But now one of the consequences was that the alternative gravity was going to be especially problematic to my investigator. This means that I do make it in. I add 1 to the danger to move from infiltration to discovery, but then I do also have to deal with the threat. The threat acts against me because I didn't act against the threat in some way. Oh, wait a minute. I haven't struck my um, signature keyword, and I'm near the end of the day. I am definitely going to wind up resting after this, but if I rest, then that's great. I can use a keyword at any time to eliminate a threat. So instead of receiving that consequence, I'm going to have Mark 87 tighten up his trench coat to hold himself together. Brilliant. The next question is, uh, what's the clue that I got? Ace of Spades. That's the original clue related to Sylvan Steel. All right. The sergeant stands up and uh, gestures to the android, who tightens himself into his trench coat and says, Hey, Nix, hold down the fort for me, will you? Get the paperwork taken care of. I'll be back in just a jiff. You sure you're going to be okay with the gravity? It shouldn't be fine. Just button it up a little tighter is all. Say, Sergeant, how long have you had the oh, this installment? This is free from um, any of our providers. A little bit of a cybernetic enhancement. I don't really go in for that kind of thing. And Mark 87 eyes the sergeant up and down. And while talking about the tech that he's wearing isn't necessarily common for a police officer, it occurs to Mark 87 that there's something else sitting there. It's got it's got a Sylvan Steel logo on it, the cross section of the metal and the tree. Is that? Oh yeah, that's one of our typical providers. Sylvan Steel, they provide uh, all kinds of gear for us. I see. The elevator door opens, and a orderly clerk from the 0G section of the jail gestures to Mark 87 to come in. Nix Croman looks up at Mark and sees him about to leave and says, Yeah, take care of yourself for a bit, okay? Mark 87 winks. His glowing eye goes out and then turns back on again. Crisp, blue, trustworthy color. Yeah, see you in a bit. What? Sylvan Steel is working also with the cops? All right, so I mark the danger up 1. We're already um, back up to a 6. Oh, all right, now the question is, in the acquisition stage, where do we find a clue? This will be in entering the jail. In entering the jail cell with Lorenzo Iverson, Mark 87 finds himself uh, staring up at a swirling, tumbling cubicle, a cube style jail cell that seems to all other observations suspended in the middle of the sky. But because of this quirk of gravity, um, the occupants inside of it aren't undergoing any vertigo. They just watch the world spinning around them. The uh, the warden that led Mark 87 up to the chute pulls on the trench coat and leads him to one of the cells. Lorenzo Iverson is wearing a white jumpsuit and has a orange tag along his shoulder, and Lorenzo has a thin mustache and is a tall, balding individual who has um, a couple of cybernetic implants of his own, small creases along the neck, and something about his hands, Mark 87 observes. Hey, Warden, what have you brought me? What is this? You have a visitor. Apparently your next of kin. My who of the what? Lorenzo Iverson, the former proprietor of Easy Street Speakeasy. Oh my god. You really work? I'd prefer we keep this professional, sir. And for the next few moments, Mark 87 leans in and talks to the individual who is stored inside of the drifting jail cell. Questions of, did you know Stieg Farnell? Why did you get potentially named in this murder charge? And please keep it quick. We don't have a whole lot of time. So we have a kind of interrogation with a willing subject. Um, it's clear from the conversation that Lorenzo Iverson knows that um, Mark 87 wants to get him out. And let's see how well my insight roll goes. 4, 5 is 9, plus 2 is 11. Woo. Discovery stage complete, and I get to move into acquisition stage. Gotta remember that sequence. And in the middle of all this, I got a bonus clue. No consequences. A 5 of spades. So this is tied to the encrypted message, the shipping log that was pinned to the wall. That's where we're going to find a clue attached to. Yeah, that's not only where we find a clue, but maybe we. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stieg Farden. I look, a lot of people come into Easy Street, and I don't know everybody's name. I get to clear their checks at the end, but if this guy's as nice as you say he is, um, I don't know that he would leave his tab open even for very long. Mark 87 Rolodexes through his mind. What about the uh, main connections board? There was one section that was large and had a encrypted message on it. Oh, that guy. Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose he did have a lot of cybernetics. He had large, overdone arms. He had like the respirator unit that makes his voice project pretty far. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That code, that was a big deal for him. I recognize some of the coding on it. It's one of the storage um, places for one of the docks, some of the code, but I didn't recognize all of it. When I asked him about it, he said it was important and not to tell anybody, but he trusted me with it because I helped him make sure that it stayed clear, clean, and obvious anytime. Um, well, there was some kind of an occasion for it because he didn't always have it put up. You mean he had multiple versions of this? Oh yeah, no, this was not. This wasn't the only one that he put up. This was a regular code. Okay, okay. Storage code too. All right, I need to spend some extra time cracking that. All right, what can you tell me about the night in question? Do you remember seeing anything? There was no like security camera footage that I could get my hands on. Is there anything you can tell me about what you saw about that guy's individual conversations? Please, your own freedom might be writing on it. So, rolling my insight. 6, 3, and 9 plus 2 is 11. I'm doing pretty good. Stick to your insight, Mark 87. Don't try to do anything with your power or your strength. All right. I scored a clue and a bonus clue. Let's see what our first clue is. Ace of Hearts. The Ace of Hearts, it goes right back to our black market lead. Lorenzo Iverson, uh, he just said something about um, how how to connect Sylvan Steel to uh, Speakeasy, where one Mark 87 was stored, but two where Steak was also kidnapped from. All right, next clue is Three of Hearts. Okay, the Three of Hearts, the three is tied to the false charges by the cops. That's good news. And the fact that the cops are somehow tracking cybernetic implants. So that also suggests a whole heck of a lot. Oh, here's what he said. Look, I can tell you right now, there is no possible way that I could have done anything to Stieg when he went missing, because I only just got back from a space station jump. I was out of station and they somehow changed my transponder chip. Oh, you don't know about the transponder chips. The Yeah, the cops have been tracking people with cybernetic implants for ages. And I know this because the execs for Sylvan Steel used to hang out in Easy Street, right under your very nose. Well, such as it is. And yeah, so Sylvan Steel had people who were hanging out in Easy Street all the time. But they told me that when I got arrested, my transponder code showed that I was in the bar, when the fact of the matter is, I was on a jump ship boarding from Kalamazoo. So there's no way that I could have been at my own bar. But I tell you what, if they're tracking these, and he pulls at his own implant futilely, then they can change that. They can somebody's going to be able to mess with the data. Why do you think so much on the station is made of paper these days? Because it used to be folks like you that kept the digital age safe. When that went away, everything safe or off books became part of the paper world. So of course Sylvan Steel is possibly, what I'd guess? And then the investigator leaned in and goes, I'm about to say what you're already going to say. Sylvan Steel possibly changed your transponder code for the cops so that they had somebody to put the rap on, while who knows who's looking for Steve Barnell right now. And of course, if he's tracking down Leaf, then he's probably, uh, I gotta go. What do you mean you gotta go? You gotta get me out of here now. I can't get you out of here right now. You're still under that rap, but once I prove that you didn't kill Stieg, then yeah, they're gonna let you go. But um, can you show me any of the other transponder codes or information that you can? All right. And in a few moments, there's a flash of um, signal from Lorenzo's collar, and the trick with his hands, he manages data and can take payment with his cards instead of having to swipe credit or so on. He can just tap with his finger and finish a transaction, easy as pie. It's not too difficult or too different from some of the data pad management that other individuals can use before. Oh, great. So Mark 87 walks back or floats back to the warden and says, all right, I've gotten what I need. What's that? I finished the imprint with my former owner. So now, for the moment, I'm a free android. Let's get back downstairs, all right? The warden takes him away, and uh, Lorenzo Iverson, from his jail cell, waves and drifts off to a bench, pulling at something on his neck. The cybernetic implants seem like a convenience at first, but it's hard to say that those are actually how they feel now to him. Within moments, gravity gets restored, and he's back on solid ground. The android registers that his power cells have had to work a little bit harder now that he's back on ground, and he's walking back up to Nix Croman and the frustrated sergeant. That was longer than 20 seconds, sir. I'm sorry, you're right. My sensory material wasn't exactly up to snuff. It took a little bit though. I've got it here. And he clasps Nix Croman's hand carefully and says, "All right, I'm ready to go home." Yeah, me too. She says, "Good evening, officer." Yeah, good evening. Next time, hurry up. Whenever you say you're going to be fast, be fast. Stop making up. And the door closes behind them. Boy, have I got a lot to tell you. Say, Do you have any implants, Nix? Any kind of upgrades at all? Now that's a good question for the Oracle, because I don't want to be the one to just make that one up. All right, let's see. Once we find out if Nix has upgrades, we're going to find out what kind of upgrades they are. I'm going to go down to the random table at the bottom of the book. Do, 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 do. Holy crap, what a scene. All right. Do, 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 do. The yes or no oracle. The very sophisticated yes or no oracle, where if you roll a 5 or a 6, it's an extreme yes, or if you roll a 1 or a 2, it's an extreme no, and the other numbers you can kind of figure out. This is a 3. That is a soft no, meaning that Nyx may or may not have a lot of implants, which is a little bit of how I role played her in my head. All right, what kind of upgrade might Nyx have had or be considering having? Now we go to the subject oracle. 6-1. Prevent flourishing fight. I don't know if you could call it an upgrade. Nick says on the way back to the apartment that she calls home. I've got a little bit of skeletal reinforcement, and I can hold my own in a fight. But I'm really more about making sure I can get out of a fight rather than sticking around in it. You know what I mean? Okay, that makes sense. All right, I made some interesting calculated risks throughout the day. Specifically, the fact that we've now ended my investigator's day, and I did 4 investigation scenes instead of running at least an obligation scene and doing something to improve my fatigue. The good news is that, um, well, I have got a lot of material to work with. I got a lot of clues, and I have almost some answers. The bad news is, yeah, I do actually have to mark a extra fatigue on my thing because I didn't spend any time trying to track down my old belongings. My signature keyword is still checked because I haven't rested today, and I have one random event to deal with because at the end of the day, a random event occurs and an attribute test has to be run. So let's go to the random event table. All right, the way random events work at the end of the day, you have the subject oracles help formulate an event, and I have to make a attribute test to resolve the event. So we've got Nix Croman and the investigator, Mark 87, walking home. And what happens to them? 3-2. Arrive wild. Hmm. Arrive wild. 3-3. Hate. Oh. AUs. Hey. Now, hey. So you got any extra coin for? Yeah. The bridge troll. Bridge troll. Do the bridge troll. When people talk about the large cybernetic implants, they're usually selling the more expensive, sleeker stuff, things that look normal but are exceptionally strong. Other times, there are people who bought the major upgrades that just look raw strong. And that's what Mark 87 found himself staring at when Nix Croman um, suddenly gets confronted by people who are going to take advantage of the fact that she's walking alone at night with what looks like the cheapest robot on the station. Problem is, he's also the sharpest robot on the station. The alleyway looks dark that they came out of, but now a busy street is just around the corner. Hey, don't go running off now. Yeah, stay and talk with us. And before you move, and one of them pulls a gun. How about you make sure that you offer whatever's in the nice bag? Oh no, they still have Steeg's bug out bag. Quick as a flash, Mark 87 pulls up a map of the area. and he recognizes that there's a power cell sitting in one of the empty containers. He's not armed as an investigator should be, or at least not that he needed to be. But the real question is, how does he get away from them and possibly avoid frying everybody in the area? Detonating a power cell is not exactly likely. The brain of the android starts flipping through scenario after scenario, even as he gently steps backward toward Nyx. The problem is, friends, that you didn't mean to pick on an officer of the law. Suddenly, his old poise and conviction as an officer on the station came back to him. You remembered what it was like to be the one patrolling this beat. The buildings aren't all that different, even if the scum is slightly fresh. And there's a thing or two that he knows about the buildings that maybe these guys don't seem to know. He takes a step forward and moves to one of the panels as Nyx stands in the open alleyway. Where are you going? I'm using a kind of cheat here. Is it a cheat? I don't know. You tell me. Um, Mark 87 has a history on this building, history on this station. So I'm rolling his environmental awareness and logical thinking skills to see if it can create a solution for him. Potentially, that's craftiness, but by the text of the book, the logical thinking and environmental awareness are going to be the insight roll. So 2 plus, I rolled doubles, another random event, but I also get a free clue. Everything just happens all at once. Mark 87 pulls down gently on a lever, and it's a panel that the two gents hadn't recognized before, but they will probably remember it forever because within the next second, a fence line opens up around them, seals over the top of them, and a sign comes across that says garbage disposal, and it creates a cage lift elevator that runs up the side of the building. Hey, where are you going? What? Bring us down. Hey. The gun goes off, but way out of the distance. And now a one of the tricks that Mark 87 had in his mind, he pulls on the lever again and pulls on it again, and it shutters the cage to the point where the mechanism stalls partway between the fourth and fifth story. Bring us down here. You can't leave the people up here, man. It smells. And they are stranded, suspended on one of the rail cars that's suspended on one of the railways that would lead up to a garbage transit ship. It would lead up to it, except that this has probably not been in operation for decades, and by the looks of it, it's not going to be in operation for any time soon. Time for the bonus clue. A two of hearts. Well, that's interesting. The two of hearts was our packet of dusk flower seeds. Even as the android looks up at his handiwork, some part of his circuitry suggests that maybe he shouldn't be able to laugh and smile at this, but he is. He's very happy. Nix Croman smiles and says, "Wow, good work. I didn't even know that kind of thing could happen." Well, when you walk the streets as long as I have, few things are surprising. What is that? And he looks down and picks up a um, simple advertisement on paper. It's an advertisement that Nix Croman has seen for all around town too, but it catches Mark 87's attention clearly. There's the pattern of the seeds. There's the shape of the flower. And it's advertised as a implant system suppression treatment, full dusk flower upgraded. The dusk flower produces medicine for individuals who have some kind of cybernetic implant. What kind of medicine? The data suddenly starts to collect in Mark 87's head. This guy's Stieg might have been collecting. Oh, well, wait, hang on. Can't get ahead of myself, Mark 87 says. Another random event happens. Okay, well, what is it this time? What is it this time? 1-1. Confront. Great. 1-1. Confront flourishing What the odds of that being rolled? Confront flourishing fear. Confront flourishing fear. Flourishing fear, flourishing fear. Fear of what? The city? Crime? Well, the nice part is that this is a normal random event instead of an end of the day random event where I have to do an attribute test. This random event just offers something that shifts the perspective on the scene. Wow, mister, I thought you were a goner. Mark 87 turns around and sees Kid. Oh, wow. We watch people get mugged all the time, and Mom's never seen anything like this. She goes, "Are you?" And a small woman near Nyx leans forward and goes, "Are you okay? Your android servant seemed to do a pretty good job." And far above them, they can still hear the yelling of the individuals, but a crowd has now gathered, and people around them are who've been waiting for the bus or just simply passing onto the street for the nightlife stop to realize, like, hey, those regular crooks, was that somebody stood up to them. And maybe if that changes, maybe there is hope in the city. Maybe White Home could feel like home again. Mark 87 makes his way onto a bus with Nyx to get back to their apartment so that he can rest. He could feel his power cells drained. But there's now a greater satisfaction welling inside of his system. And while Nyx rides alongside him, there's a sense that he wouldn't mind maybe being owned. He wouldn't mind um, having his own life back. But there's too many questions, and maybe this isn't the right type of a life that he would want. But it could be a life, and any life that you make safe, that you show curiosity for, and any life that you can cherish, even on the hard days. Well, that's worth keeping, isn't it? When there's not any safety, people flee. When there's no curiosity, nobody wants to engage. If there is a chance of hope, Nix leans over. What are you thinking about? We're almost there. Come on. Oh, wait, what? Mark 87 realizes that he might have shifted into a power save mode. He's been now walking upstairs outside of the bus, and he's about to step into the apartment. And Nix says, "Oh wow, you really are beat, aren't you? Yeah, okay, let's get you plugged in and charged up, all right? Come on." What was he saying? Something about how if you help make life safe, if you make safe spaces, people start to flourish? Something like that. Yeah, Mark 87 thinks that as he sits down, finds a handy outlet, one with a adapter that he can still connect to, and begins the work of steadily recharging his batteries. Wow. Okay. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Um, that's day two in Outdated, the actual play of Caught in the Rain, a solo mystery tabletop role playing game. Um, if you really like what you're hearing, please push the button, like, share, subscribe. And yes, I am working on improving my audio. You can probably tell. All right. Um, watch for another episode of Outdated where we see more of the threads start to come together. I can tell you right now, um, if you're playing this game, you want to make sure that you are balancing your fatigue and danger. Unlike what I did, where I went on some kind of an investigation spree. So, um, yeah, more strategy, more episodes, and we'll find out what happened to Stieg. See you next time, Space Cowboy.